And just to continue, or perhaps move into the other interesting discussion, which is, why are people outside of the tech world or the tech giants, struggling to get started with AI? I heard this funny term just yesterday, I believe. They basically call it the AI graveyard, or the prototype graveyard.
Yeah, the pocket graveyard.
Yeah, so many companies are trying it out, but usually stops at the prototype stage and really, or very rarely put it in production and get value from a company. But the tech giants do. So what would be your explanation for that?
So if we look at it from the, say, enterprise perspective, sort of the larger companies. So first you encounter the problem is that you typically have a high-flying AI vision and data transformation, which is enthusiastic, ambitious, and super fluffy. And then you have a layer of middle management that don't understand anything what's going on. And then you have a small team of experts who are, we're gonna build this cool stuff ourselves, everything from scratch. So there's first this disconnect in the organization between the initiatives, and the only places where I've seen it work is where there's a really clear agenda that goes understanding both top down and bottom up.
So I love it. So strategic can be translated to tactical, can be translated into operations, and vice versa.
Exactly. So that's one thing. Another thing is it's pretty mundane, but it's basically it's complicated to put a system in production today, a deep learning system. It requires many moving parts. It uses exotic hardware like GPUs that you have to manage, and it's built on experimental software that keeps changing. So getting out a prototype is relatively simple. You do a one-off data acquisition thing. So, look, I have a CSV file with the problem, and you build this a quick neural net with some tool, and look, the results are amazing. The cost of doing that is nothing compared to the cost of actually putting into production, making sure that you have data pipelines, that you sort of can regularly feed it with data, making sure that you have, when the system is in production, that it's stable, that you have monitoring. There's a whole world around it that's far more complex, and where you're sort of building it on quicksand because the tooling is so experimental.
So I guess this is another analogy back to the steam engine that, we can make a steam engine work if you have some passionate people to have like a prototype of the steam engine, but to really make it valuable, you need to build 1,000 of them or
exactly
have they work in a great way, right?
And then I think one of the sort of, I would say the sort of main experience from our interactions with customers, what is always the most difficult bit is that when we come in as AI experts, we don't understand their business and what their priorities are. Right. And at the same time, they don't understand what AI is, what it can do, and what it can't do. And making that bridge, that's the sort of a key bit that's always complicated. And I think long term, the solution is better education in AI, that everybody should understand really before what it can and can't do and what you can expect.
But so let's take those bullets down, because I concur with all of them, and I've had several of my key presentations has been in several of those areas. So the first one was, we talked about making it connect the whole way, not too fluffy, but from strategic, you need to have one agenda sort of thing. There is a fundamental this is complicated stuff, so you need to have respect for it in this way. Difference between pilot versus really making it work. And then the last point here I think is equally important. The future is, I use the word intersectional innovation. So we are living in a new core, which is a domain expertise married up or infused with data and AI expertise. And I think this is profound, because those things also means how do we organize this? How do we work together? How is our fundamental educational system looking like in order to support us living in the new core in the middle of the Venn diagram? So I think it's really cool. It's profound, yeah.
I'll add one a bit more mundane thing, but where I see companies fail so often, and that's being so caught up in the sort of idea of AI that they're not thinking through the logistics. Like, for instance, one company that we work with that that had the idea of basically, we can use drones for inspecting something or other. And when we broke it down, it was like, the AI bit, it's just image recognition. We can do. But you're actually suggesting you build a fleet of drones. How are you going to transport it? How are you going to manage the logistics around it? Yes, it's a super cool use case, but there is no chance this is going to go beyond some guy just with one drone doing a proof of concept and say, oh, great, we can do this inspection by drone. Yeah, but you're not going to put it in production.
Yeah. To have a more holistic understanding, I guess, of all the steps necessary for getting everything.
And before we leave this subject, are there any simple? What's the number 1 or 2, 3 things? If you flip this, get started. What is the number 2, 3, 4 things? Just get this stuff right, please.
Commit to deploy.
Commit to deploy.
Yes.
I like this.
So when you start an AI project, write it down in blood that this is going into production. And many of the problems will solve themselves. So don't accept that this will be a proof of concept. We're just seeing if this works or not, and so on. So really be committed to actually getting into production.
That's a sound out in commit to deploy. It should be written on some t-shirt, I think, somewhere.
Actually, it's written on this cap, airplane. Oh. We have too many pilots, so we need to give them an airplane to make them fly. So it's actually the whole idea behind that word airplane is actually commit to deploy.
Cool.